She just wanted to make a tip, that's all. But one smile, one laugh, one little touch on a stranger's arm, it cost her everything. The air was thick with smoke and secrets. That's what bars smell like, where important people hide. Expensive mistakes mixed with bourbon and perfume. Claire had worked at the Heights for 6 months now, and she could smell danger the same way other people smell rain. It was almost 2 a.m, a Tuesday nobody cared about. But the lounge still hummed with energy. Dark lighting made everyone look better than they were. Politicians. Businessmen who lied for a living. A few rich guys passing through town. All of them sat in velvet booths drinking things that cost more than her rent. Claire adjusted the tray on her left hand. Her wrist was killing her. It had been killing her for 3 hours. She was 24, but tonight she felt ancient. She pushed a strand of dark hair behind her ear and scanned the room like she'd done 1,000 times before. She was good at this job. Really good. She could be sharp when she needed to be, invisible when the moment called for it, and charming enough to make a guy spend $50 on something he hated. But tonight felt different. The air was heavier, charged with something she couldn't explain, like static right before lightning hits. That's when she felt it. That feeling, the one that made every hair on her body stand up. She looked toward the private booth at the far end of the room. Elevated, like a throne. The man sitting there was watching everything, watching everyone. But most importantly, he was watching her. His name was Marcus. Everyone knew his name. Everyone whispered it. But nobody really knew him. He was the shadow behind this whole city, the guy moving pieces on a board Claire couldn't even see. Marcus wore a suit that probably cost more than everything she owned combined. It fit his shoulders perfectly. Shoulders that carried the weight of something huge. His hair was dark, swept back from a face that wasn't soft or pretty, but you couldn't look away from it. There was a scar on his jaw, old, jagged. It told a story of violence, real violence. Not movie violence, the kind that actually happened. He wasn't drinking, wasn't talking, just sitting. Watching, like a predator in the corner of a living room. Every time Claire walked past him, she felt it, like ice running down her spine. "Hey there, beautiful," a voice called out. Claire turned. The man at table 4 was new. Handsome in that polished way guys practice in mirrors. Expensive suit that didn't quite fit right. A smile that said he got what he wanted. He'd been watching her all night, leaving huge tips, wanting her attention. "What can I get you?" she asked, doing the dance, hip cocked. Professional smile. Make him feel special. Make him feel seen. "I think I'm done with the scotch," he said, leaning back. His eyes traveled down her body, they lingered. "I want something sweet, something with a kick. Like you?" Claire didn't roll her eyes. She wanted to. Instead, she laughed. Soft, breathy, she tilted her head like it was cute. "You've had enough kick for tonight," she teased, dropping her voice lower. She reached out, let her fingers brush his suit jacket, just above his elbow. Calculated, planned. A harmless touch to make him spend more money. "How about water? I'll check on you in 20 minutes. The guy grinned like he'd won something. "Tough girl. I like that." He leaned in. "What's your name?" "I don't see a name tag," Claire said. "It's Claire, and I'm only tough on the ones I like." It was a lie, all of it. She was exhausted. Her feet were blistering. She wanted cold pizza and sleep, 12 hours of sleep. But the guy reached for his wallet. Then the temperature dropped. In the private booth, Marcus went completely still. His hand was holding a glass of water. Crystal. Expensive. His knuckles turned white. The glass made a sound, like it was about to shatter. He watched Claire laugh at the stranger's table. He watched her hand touch the man's arm. He watched her tilt her head. That soft look in her eyes, he knew it was fake. He hated it anyway. Something dark and ugly twisted inside his chest, starting in his stomach, rising like smoke. Hot, heavy, wrong. He didn't know this man. Didn't care about this man. But watching him smile at Claire, watching him soak up her warmth, something inside Marcus woke up. Something primal. Something that said mine. He didn't own her. He knew that. She was a waitress, an employee, a civilian who had no business being in his world. But logic wasn't working right now. The beast inside him rattled its cage, demanding something, demanding blood. At table 4, things changed. The man's smile disappeared. His charm evaporated. He reached out. Not gentle. His fingers clamped around Claire's wrist, tight enough to turn her skin white. "Don't run off yet?" He slurred. "Sit down, have a drink with me. I'll pay for your time. Hell, I'll pay for your whole shift." Claire's professional mask cracked. She was annoyed now, sharp. "Sir, I can't do that. I'm on the clock." "Please let go, come on," he insisted, pulling her closer. He was making a scene. His voice got louder. "Don't be a tease. You were just touching me. You want this?" Panic hit Claire. Hot, sharp, different kind of panic. She dealt with drunk guys. Lots of them. But this was different. This guy wouldn't hear the word no. She could see it in his eyes. She planted her feet, ready to fight, ready to yell. "I said let go," she snapped. All the softness gone from her voice. A shadow fell over the table. It wasn't just a shadow. It was like the light disappeared. Like the whole world got sucked into a vacuum. Marcus was there. He didn't look at Claire. His eyes were only on the man holding her wrist, his face completely blank. No anger, no mercy, like a person who could end someone's life the same way he signed a check. "Let her go," Marcus said. His voice wasn't loud, just a low rumble. But that rumble seemed to vibrate in everyone's bones. Everyone standing within 20 feet heard it. It was a command. Final, absolute. The customer looked up, annoyed. Then recognition hit him. The color drained from his face. All the arrogance, gone. Replaced by pure terror. The kind a mouse feels when the lion notices it. His fingers sprang open, like Claire's skin had turned to hot metal. "Her mister." The man started, his voice shaking, his hands shaking. I didn't mean. We were just. Marcus didn't blink, didn't move. Just stared. His silence got heavier and heavier until it became unbearable. "You are touching my staff," Marcus said, no emotion in his voice. "You are making a scene in my place. You are leaving, now." It wasn't a question. The man scrambled. He knocked over his chair. He threw too much money on the table, mumbled an apology that nobody cared about. Within 10 seconds, he was weaving through tables, running for the exit like the devil was chasing him. Claire stood there, frozen, rubbing her wrist where the red marks were already fading. Her heart was hammering. Relief, humiliation, confusion, all mixed together. She looked up to thank Marcus, to make a joke, to ease the tension. But Marcus finally looked at her, and she couldn't say anything. He was furious. She could see it. Not hot rage, cold rage. The kind that burned like dry ice. His jaw was so tight she could see a muscle move under his skin. His eyes were dark, swirling with something she couldn't name. "My office," he said. His words were sharp, like broken glass. He turned and walked away without waiting to see if she'd follow. Claire stared at his back. Her own anger flared. Who did he think he was? She was the one who got grabbed. She was the one manhandled. She grabbed her tray and slammed it on the nearest empty table. The sound made people jump. Then she marched after him. The back of the Heights was a different world. No velvet, no soft lights. Just humming refrigerators and bright fluorescent hallway lights. Claire pushed through the heavy oak door to Marcus's office. The office was like him, impeccable, expensive, cold, dark books on the walls, black leather furniture, chrome metal, one lamp on a huge mahogany desk. Just enough light to see but not enough to feel warm. Marcus stood by the sidebar, his back to her. He was pouring a drink, amber liquid hitting crystal, the only sound in the room. He didn't turn around when she closed the door. "That," he said, voice low and vibrating with anger, "is not how my staff behaves." Heat rose in Claire's face. She crossed her arms like a shield over her chest. "Excuse me, I was doing my job. That guy was a creep. I handled it." Marcus turned slowly. He held a glass. His knuckles were white again, so tight the glass was groaning. "You handled it," he repeated, mocking her. "That's what you call it," leaning over him, touching him, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. "You looked like you were offering yourself on a platter." The insult hit her like a real slap. Claire took a step forward. The fear was gone. Only indignation remained. "I was hustling for a tip," she fired back, her voice rising. "That's my job, Marcus. I smile, I laugh. I make them feel good so they spend money. I was just flirting." It meant something to him. Marcus growled. He stepped toward her, invading her space. The smell of him hit her. Sandalwood. Expensive alcohol. Danger. "He thought he had a right to touch you. He thought you wanted it." "I can't control what some drunk thinks," Claire argued. She tilted her chin up, refusing to back down, refusing to let him see her knees shaking. "I didn't ask him to grab me, and I didn't ask you to swoop in like some white knight. I had it under control. You had nothing under control." Marcus snapped. The jealousy that had been boiling inside him exploded. That image of the stranger's hand on her arm, her laugh aimed at someone else. It was driving him insane. He needed to erase it, all of it. He slammed his glass down on the desk. The sound was like a gunshot. Whiskey splashed over the edge, stained the wood. Claire flinched. Her body reacted before her brain could. Her shoulders jumped, her breath hitched. But she didn't retreat. She stood there, eyes locked with his, burning with defiance. "Don't you dare try to intimidate me," she whispered, her voice shaking with rage. "I am not one of your soldiers. You don't own me." The air between them changed. It crackled, like before a storm. The anger in the room twisted. It became something else, something darker, hotter, way more dangerous. Silence, just the sound of their breathing. Ragged, heavy. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the fire in her green eyes, the flush on her cheeks, the way her chest moved with every angry breath. She was magnificent. She was standing up to a man the entire city feared, and it made him want her, with a ferocity that almost brought him to his knees. He moved. Everything happened fast. He closed the distance between them. His hands gripped her waist. His fingers dug into the fabric of her uniform. He pushed her backward, not violent but commanding. Unstoppable, her back hit the wall. Cool plaster against her shoulders, trapping her. Before she could protest, Marcus was there, his body pressing against hers, a wall of muscle and heat. His hands planted on the wall on either side of her head, caging her in. She looked up, Her breath caught. His face was inches from hers. She could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the warmth of his breath on her lips. The anger was still there, but mixed with something else now. Raw hunger. Naked desire that made her blood run hot. "You think I don't own you?" Marcus murmured. His voice was rough. A caress. Drop into a pitch that vibrated through her entire body. He lowered his head. His nose brushed against hers. A taunt. An intimate touch. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." Claire. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. Her mind screamed at her to push him away, to run, to slap him. But her body betrayed her. Her hands stayed at her sides, her fingers curled into fists. She tilted her head back, exposing her throat, a silent invitation. "Then fire me," she breathed. The challenge was weak. No conviction. But it was there. Marcus's gaze dropped to her mouth. He watched her lips part. Watched her breath come shallow and quick. The urge to kiss her. To take her right there against the wall and mark her as his. It was overwhelming. It took everything he had not to do it. He leaned in closer. His lips barely brushed hers. A ghost of a kiss. A promise of things that could be. It was electric. The contact sent a shock through Claire. Her toes curled in her shoes. She felt herself leaning into him. Her eyes fluttering shut. Waiting, wanting. But he didn't kiss her. Marcus pulled back. Just an inch. The loss of contact was physical pain. He stared into her eyes, his expression intense and dark, utterly serious. "Don't play with fire, Claire," he whispered. His warning wrapped around her like smoke. "Because if you burn, I won't be the one to put you out. I will be the one watching the flames." He held her gaze for one more second, letting the words sink in, letting the threat and the promise settle between them. Then he pushed himself away from the wall. The heat vanished, replaced by cold air. He turned his back to her, walking toward the window looking out over the city lights. "Get out," he said, his voice flat. All the passion suddenly gone. "Shift is over. Go home." Claire stood there, dazed. Her lips tingled where he almost touched her. Her legs felt like jelly. She stared at his broad back, a storm of emotions swirling inside her. Anger, humiliation, confusion, and a sharp, undeniable throb of want. She didn't say anything. She straightened her uniform, took a shaky breath, turned on her heel and walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Final, absolute. Later, in the silence of her apartment, Claire lay in bed, sheets tangled around her legs. Street lights filtered through thin curtains. Long, distorted shadows across the ceiling. This place was nothing like the opulence of the heights. A reminder of what was real, what was her life. But her mind wasn't here. Her mind was in that office. She could still feel him. The weight of his body against hers. The smell of sandalwood and danger. The rough texture of his voice vibrating through her skin. "Don't play with fire." She touched her lips with her fingertips. Tracing the shape in the dark, she was angry. Furious that he thought he could manhandle her. That he thought he could control how she did her job. She hated his arrogance. The way he looked at her like she was something to acquire. But a heat coiled low in her belly, heavy, pulsing. She couldn't ignore it. She replayed it over and over. The way his eyes got darker. The way his hands caged her. The raw, terrifying intensity of his wanting her. She turned over, buried her face in her pillow, let out a frustrated groan. She should be terrified. She should quit and never come back. Marcus was dangerous. He lived in a world of violence and shadows. But as sleep finally started pulling her under, the last thought in her mind wasn't fear. It was the memory of his lips, a breath away from hers, and the terrifying realization that she wanted him to close that gap. The air at the heights had shifted. The usual hum of conversation and clinking glasses remained. But for Claire, the air felt different, tighter, heavier. It was like all the oxygen got replaced with something that made it hard to breathe. Marcus was nowhere. The private booth sat empty, the place where he usually watched everything. But she could feel his absence, like pressure, like weight, and she could feel eyes on her, constantly. Not the leering gazes of drunk customers. Different eyes, sharp, clinical. The bouncers by the door, the bartenders who went silent when she approached. She was being watched. She tried to ignore it, focused on her tables, kept her smile bright, moved efficiently. But the anxiety in her stomach refused to loosen. She was sharp and independent. A woman who'd raised herself since she was 16. But she knew the signs. She knew when things were about to change, when a storm was coming. Around 11 o'clock, the storm walked in. He was tall, wearing a tan coat that looked wrong in a room full of black suits. He sat at the bar, ordered water. Claire was wiping down glasses nearby when he signaled her over. "Excuse me," he said. His voice was pleasant, almost musical. But his eyes, they didn't match. Pale blue, the color of winter ice, empty. "Do you work here often?" he asked. 5 nights a week, Claire replied. Professional. Careful, not leaning in, not flirting. The lesson from 2 nights ago was still burned into her. The man smiled, but it didn't reach those cold eyes. "Then you must know the owner, mister." He paused. "Ashford, isn't it?" The name hit the air between them like a suspended knife. In this part of town, people didn't ask about Marcus casually. They either knew him and feared him, Or they knew better than to speak his name. I know who signs the checks, Claire said. She scrubbed a spot on the counter that was already clean. But he's not around much. I barely see him. The man hummed. He tapped a finger against his water glass. Is that so? I heard he takes a special interest in his staff, especially the pretty ones. The implication was subtle, but it hit its mark. Claire stiffened. I wouldn't know anything about that, she said. Her voice got sharp. If you want a drink, I can get the bartender. Otherwise, I have tables to tend to. She turned to leave. Tell him an old friend stopped by. The man called after her, his voice low but clear over the jazz music. Tell him the Montalvo family sends their regards. Claire didn't look back. She walked straight to the service station. Her hands trembled as she punched in an order. She didn't know who the Montalvo family was, but she knew the tone of a threat when she heard one. 20 minutes later, a massive man appeared at her side. Silvio, Marcus's right hand. Mountain of a person. Perpetually broken nose. He didn't look at her. Just pretended to check inventory on the shelves. Boss wants to see you? Silvio grunted. Upstairs now. The walk to the office felt like walking to the gallows. When she entered, Marcus was standing by the window, looking out at the rain-slick streets. He didn't turn when she came in. Who was he? Marcus asked. No pleasantries, no greeting, just a question. Claire closed the door, leaned back against it for support. I don't know. He wore a tan coat. He asked about you. Marcus turned then. His face was a mask of controlled fury, the same look he'd worn when he pinned her against the wall. Only this time the anger wasn't directed at her. It was cold, calculating, aimed at the world outside. What did you tell him? I told him I didn't know you, Claire said. Her voice steady even though fear was fluttering in her throat. I said I just work here? Marcus exhaled, sharp sound through his nose. He walked around the desk, came to rest against the edge of it, crossing his ankles. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. Good, he said. Stay away from men you don't know, Claire. Do not speak to them. If someone asks about me, you walk away. Do you understand? His tone was possessive, commanding. It sparked that familiar anger in her chest. I can handle a conversation, she said, crossing her arms. I am not a child. I got rid of him, didn't I? You have no idea what you're handling. Marcus snapped, his voice dropping lower. These are not drunk tourists trying to grab your waist. These are wolves in you. You are standing in the middle of a hunting ground wearing a target. I didn't ask for your protection, Claire argued. Though her voice lacked heat, the memory of the man's cold blue eyes was still too fresh. You have it anyway, Marcus said, finality in his tone. Silvio will have someone walk you to your car tonight. Do not argue. The Claire wanted to argue, wanted to scream that she didn't belong to him, that she didn't want to be part of whatever dangerous game he was playing. But looking at him, at the tension in his shoulders, the lethal focus in his eyes, she realized arguing was pointless. He was a force of nature. You didn't argue with a landslide. You just tried to survive it. The shift ended. True to his word, a silent guard walked her to her beat-up sedan. He waited until she was inside with the doors locked before turning away. The drive home was a blur. Claire's apartment was in a wall-cup on the city's edge. Peeling paint. Neighbors who minded their own business. She parked on the street and hurried up 3 flights of stairs, her keys clutched between her fingers like a weapon. When she reached her door, she stopped. The wood around the lock was splintered, just small cracks, hairline, where the frame had been forced. But to someone who'd spent her life looking over her shoulder, it screamed danger. Claire froze. Her breath caught. She reached out and pushed the door. It swung open silently. The apartment was dark. She fumbled for the light switch, her heart pounding so hard she could hear blood rushing in her ears. The lights flickered on. Violation. That was the only word. Everything was wrong. Her dresser drawers were pulled open. Her clothes scattered across the floor, a chaotic sea of fabric. Someone had been hunting for something. Or maybe they just wanted to show her they could touch whatever they wanted. She walked further in, stepping over piles of sweaters. In the bedroom, it was worse. Her photos. The few she had of her mother before she died. The ones from graduation. They weren't on the wall anymore. They were on her bed, laid out face up, arranged in a perfect, terrifying row. The message was clear. We were here. We know who you are. We can get to you. Terror, cold and absolute, washed over her. She couldn't stay here. The air felt contaminated, thick with the presence of whoever had done this. She backed out of the room, her hands shaking so badly she dropped her keys. She scrambled to pick them up, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. She ran. She didn't think about where she was going until she was already in her car. Engine roaring to life. She couldn't go to the police. In this city, police took 40 minutes to respond to a break-in. Half of them were on the payroll of guys like the man in the tan coat. She needed safety. She needed a fortress. She drove to the only place that made sense. Marcus's tower pierced the skyline, a monolith of steel and glass, looking down on the city like a judge. Claire pulled up to the private garage entrance, praying the guard would let her in. She gave her name, her voice shaking, a pause, a buzz. The gate lifted. When the elevator doors opened into the penthouse, Marcus was waiting. He was wearing a white dress shirt, top buttons undone, sleeves rolled up to show forearms corded with muscle. He held a gun loosely in his right hand, hanging by his leg like an extension of his body. When he saw her pale face, her wide, terrified eyes, the way she was hugging herself like she was trying to hold her shattered pieces together. He safe-tied the weapon and set it on the console table in one fluid motion. "Claire," he said. It wasn't a question. It was an anchor. "They broke in?" she whispered, the words tumbling out. "They didn't take anything. They moved things. My photos. My clothes." Marcus crossed the distance between them in 2 long strides. He didn't touch her, but he stood close enough to shield her from the rest of the room. "Did you see them?" "No. I ran. I didn't know where else to go." "You came to the right place," he said grimly. "You are safe here." He led her into the living area. The penthouse was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the glittering city below. But it was cold. Furniture was sharp-edged and modern. Gray leather and black marble. No personal touches, no photos, no clutter. It was a beautiful, sterile cage. "Sit," he commanded gently, pointing to a sofa. He went to a bar cart and poured a glass of amber liquid. He brought it to her. "Drink. It will stop the shaking." Claire took the glass with both hands, the crystal cool against her palms. She took a sip. The brandy burned her throat, a grounding fire that helped clear the fog of panic. Marcus sat on the coffee table across from her, leaning forward, his elbows on his knees. He looked at her with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "Tell me exactly what you saw," he said. She told him. She described the splintered wood, the clothes, the photos on the bed arranged in that terrifying row. As she spoke, Marcus's expression grew darker, his jaw tightening until she could see that muscle move again. "It is a scare tactic," he said quietly when she finished. "They want you to feel unsafe. They want to flush you out." "Why?" Claire asked, her voice cracking. "I am just a waitress, Marcus. I am nobody." "You are not nobody," he corrected her. "You are the woman I pulled into my office. You are the woman I protected in front of a room full of people. In my world, that makes you a weakness, and my enemies exploit weakness." Claire let out a shaky laugh, staring into her drink. "Great, so I am a pawn because you have a possessive streak." "It is not just that," Marcus said. He watched her, his gaze softening imperceptibly. "You are different, Claire. You don't bow, you don't break, it draws attention. I have had to be tough," she murmured. She looked up at him, her eyes swimming with unshed tears. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a raw, aching vulnerability. "I grew up in the system, Marcus, foster homes. Some good, mostly bad. I learned early that if I didn't look out for myself, no one else would. I ran away when I was 16. I have been drifting ever since. Just trying to find a place where the floor doesn't fall out from under me." Marcus listened, his silence heavy and attentive. He reached out, taking the empty glass from her hands, setting it aside. "I know what it is like," he said, his voice rough, "to rely only on yourself, to expect the floor to collapse. You own the city." Claire scoffed softly, gesturing to the opulent room. "I own things," Marcus corrected. "Possessions, territory. But trust is expensive. Lena, betrayal has a cost I have paid too many times." He didn't elaborate, but the look in his eyes spoke of old ghosts, losses that money couldn't fix. It was the first time she had seen him not as a boss or a monster, but as a man, a lonely, haunted man sitting in a glass tower. The silence that fell between them wasn't tense like before. It was charged, magnetic. The fear of the break began to recede, replaced by something far more potent. Claire looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the wariness in his posture, the scar on his jaw. The way his hands, usually so lethal, were resting gently on his knees. She felt a pull toward him, a gravitational force she couldn't resist. "I don't want to be alone tonight," she whispered. The admission hung in the air, fragile and honest. Marcus's gaze locked onto hers. The air in the room seemed to thin. "You are not alone," he said. He stood up, extending a hand toward her. It was an offer, not a command. Claire hesitated for only a heartbeat. She reached out, placing her hand in his. His skin was warm, his grip firm and reassuring. He pulled her up, but he didn't stop there. He drew her closer until her chest bumped against his. The contact was like striking a match. Marcus looked down at her, his eyes searching her face for any sign of reluctance. Finding none, he raised a hand to cup her cheek. His thumb traced the line of her jaw, his touch reverent, almost hesitant. "Claire," he breathed, her name sounding like a prayer on his lips. She didn't wait. She surged up on her tiptoes, her hands tangling in the hair at the nape of his neck. She pulled him down. Their mouths met in a collision of desperate need. It wasn't gentle. It was a release of days of tension, of fear, of the unspoken thing that had been simmering between them since the moment they met. Marcus groaned low in his throat, his arms wrapping around her waist. Crushing her against him, he tasted brandy and danger. She tasted rain and survival. The kiss deepened, becoming frantic. Claire opened to him, seeking, demanding. She wanted to forget the apartment, the man in the tan coat, the loneliness of her life. She wanted to be consumed. Marcus swept her up into his arms, his strength effortless. Claire wrapped her legs around his waist, burying her face in the crook of his neck, inhaling the scent of him. He carried her down the hall to the bedroom, a vast space dominated by a massive bed. He lowered her onto the mattress, following her down, his body covering hers like a shield. He braced his weight on his forearms, staring down at her, his eyes black with desire, burning with a hunger that terrified and thrilled her. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice a ragged rasp. "If we do this, there is no going back. You are in this with me." Claire reached up, tracing the scar on his jaw. She saw the darkness in him, the violence, the baggage, but she also saw the man who had given her a safe harbor when the world tried to drown her. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "Make me forget." Marcus didn't need to be told twice. He lowered his head, capturing her lips again, slow and deep. The world outside the penthouse walls ceased to exist. The threats, the broken lock, the danger. There was only the friction of skin against skin, the heat of their bodies, the desperate tangled language of two lonely souls finally finding a place to land. The morning sun did not bring warmth. It brought clarity, sharp and unforgiving. Claire woke to the smell of coffee and the cold emptiness of the other side of the bed. For a few haze-filled seconds, she let herself linger in the memory of the night before. The heat of Marcus's skin, the weight of his body, the way he had whispered her name like a secret prayer in the dark. It felt real, like a shifting of the tectonic plates that made up her lonely, unstable world. She sat up, pulling the silk sheet against her chest. The penthouse was silent. Marcus was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, fully dressed in a crisp black suit, looking out at the city, his back to her, a rigid line of tension. He looked like a statue carved from ice, utterly removed from the man who had held her hours ago. "Marcus," she called out softly. He turned slowly. His face was a mask, the vulnerability she had glimpsed, the haunted look, the desperate need, all gone, walled off behind layers of concrete and steel. "You should get dressed," he said, his voice flat, devoid of inflection. "My driver is waiting downstairs to take you home." Claire felt the words like a physical blow to the chest. She blinked, confusion warring with a sudden sharp sting of humiliation. "What?" "This was a mistake," Marcus said. He did not look at her. He looked through her at the wall behind the bed. "Last night. It should not have happened. It compromises my judgment. It puts you in danger. It will not happen again." The rejection was clinical, efficient. It was a business decision. Claire scrambled out of bed, grabbing her scattered clothes from the floor. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them to be steady. She would not cry. She would not let him see her break. "A mistake," she repeated, her voice rising. She pulled her sweater on, the wool scratching against her sensitive skin. "That is what I am to you, a lapse in judgment. You are a liability, Claire," he said, his eyes finally locking onto hers, cold and hard. "I cannot afford liabilities. Go home. Forget you were ever here." She stared at him for a long moment, searching for a crack in the armor, a sign that he was lying. But there was nothing, just the boss of the city dismissing an employee. "Fine," she spat, shoving her feet into her shoes. She grabbed her purse and marched to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle, turning back to look at him one last time. "You are a coward, Marcus. You talk about bravery and war, but you are too terrified to feel anything real." She slammed the door behind her, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the empty penthouse. The next 3 shifts at the Heights were torture. Claire showed up on time. She wore her uniform. She smiled at customers. But inside she was a coil of barbed wire, tight and sharp. She refused to look at the private booth, though she could feel his presence there like a gravity well. Marcus was back to his old habits, sitting in the shadows watching. He did not speak to her, did not acknowledge her. It was like she was a piece of furniture he had decided to ignore. The indifference made her furious. If he had been angry, she could have handled it. If he had been cruel, she could have fought back. But this eraser, this invisible treatment, it burned. On Friday night, the lounge was packed. The music was loud, a frantic jazz rhythm that matched the chaotic beating of her heart. Claire decided she had had enough of being invisible. She walked to the service well where Tom, the new bartender, was mixing drinks. Tom was young, easy laughter, bright eyes, safe. "Normal?" "Hey, Tom," Claire said, leaning her elbows on the bar, letting her posture slip into something loose and inviting. She made sure her back was to the private booth, but she angled herself enough that anyone watching, specifically one person, could see her profile. "You look tired." "Tough night," Tom looked up, surprised by the attention. "Just the usual Friday chaos." "You look nice tonight, Claire. Did you change your hair? Just for you?" she teased, reaching over to fix his collar. Her fingers lingered on the fabric. She laughed at a joke he hadn't made, tossing her head back. It was a performance, petty and beneath her. But she wanted a reaction. She wanted Marcus to lose control again. Just to prove the Iceman was a lie, she risked a glance toward the booth. Marcus was watching, but he wasn't storming down from his tower. He wasn't gripping his glass until it shattered. He was simply staring at her, his expression one of weary disappointment. It wasn't jealousy, it was pity. The realization poured ice water over her anger. He didn't care. He had meant what he said. It really was just a mistake. She pulled her hand away from Tom abruptly. "I need 2 martinis for table 6, she muttered, her voice dull. 10 minutes later, as she was clearing a table near the kitchen, a shadow fell over her. She stiffened, hoping it was him. Dreading it was him. It was Silvio. The giant man looked down at her, his face grim. He blocked her path to the kitchen, effectively cornering her. "You are playing a game you do not understand, girl," Silvio rumbled. Claire lifted her chin, balancing the tray of dirty glasses. "I'm just working, Silvio. Unless there is a rule against talking to co-workers. You are trying to provoke him," Silvio said bluntly. "I have seen men try that. I have buried men who tried that." "Is that a threat? It is a warning?" Silvio said. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a gravelly whisper. "You think he is cold because he wants to be. You think he pushes you away because he doesn't feel anything. You don't know the wars he has fought. Claire, you don't know what he has lost. Do not test him. If you push the beast too hard, it will not hug you. It will bite." He stepped back, letting her pass. Claire walked into the kitchen, her hands trembling so hard the glasses rattled against each other. The drive home that night felt longer than usual. The city was shrouded in a thick, soupy fog. Street lights turned into hazy halos. Claire gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Silvio's words replayed in her mind on a loop. "You don't know the wars he has fought." She checked her rear-view mirror. 2 bright headlights were keeping pace with her. At first, she told herself it was nothing. It was a main road. Cars traveled it. But then she took a sharp right turn toward the residential district, a turn that no one took unless they lived there. The headlights turned with her. Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in her chest. She took another turn, then another. Weaving through the narrow streets of her neighborhood, the car behind her matched every move, staying a constant, predatory distance away. It was a black sedan, sleek and indistinguishable, tinted windows that swallowed the light. Claire's breath came in short, shallow gasps. She fumbled for her phone. Her fingers hovered over Marcus's number. But shame stopped her. "You are a liability." She wouldn't call him. She wouldn't go running back to the man who had tossed her out like trash. She gunned the engine. Running a yellow light, the sedan sped up, but stopped at the red caught by cross traffic. Claire didn't wait. She floored it, screeching around the final corner to her apartment building. She parked haphazardly, not bothering to lock the car. She sprinted for the front door. She took the stairs 2 at a time, her lungs burning. Fumbling with her keys, she burst into her apartment, slamming the door and throwing the deadbolt. Then the chain, then a chair under the knob. She backed away, chest heaving, waiting for the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Silence. She sank to the floor, wrapping her arms around her knees, shaking. She was safe. She was alone. 10 minutes later, a fist pounded on her door. Claire screamed, scrambling backward until her back hit the sofa. "Go away, I have a gun," she shouted. She didn't have a gun. She had a can of pepper spray and a bread knife. "Open the door, Claire." It wasn't the voice of a stranger. It was Marcus, and he sounded furious. Claire scrambled up, pulling the chair away, undoing the locks with trembling fingers. She threw the door open. Marcus stood in the hallway. He looked like he had run there. His hair was windblown, his suit jacket unbuttoned, his chest heaving behind him. Silvio and 2 other men stood guard by the stairwell, their hands near their waistbands. Marcus pushed past her into the apartment, kicking the door shut in Silvio's face. He spun on her, his eyes blazing with a terrifying light. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" he roared. Claire flinched, stepping back. What? My men called you. I called you. You were followed for 6 blocks by a car with no plates, and you decided to play race car driver instead of calling for help. I didn't know they were your men," Claire yelled back, the fear turning into adrenaline, fueled anger. "I thought I was being hunted. I saw a black car and I ran." "You are being hunted." Marcus grabbed her by the shoulders, his grip bruising. "That is why I had a tail on you, to protect you. Because you were too stubborn to realize that you walked into a war zone." "I didn't ask for a tail," Claire shoved at his chest. But he didn't move an inch. "I didn't ask for any of this. You told me to leave, remember? You told me I was a mistake. So why are you here? Why do you care if I get run off the road?" Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her, his chest heaving against hers. "Because you are mine," he said. The words exploded out of him, raw and primal. They seemed to resonate in the small apartment. Silence, absolute and deafening. Marcus and Claire stared at each other, both shocked by what he had just said. "I tried," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a rough, desperate growl. He stepped closer, crowding her, forcing her to retreat until the back of her legs hit the coffee table. "I tried to let you go. I tried to keep you out of this. But then I get a call that you are speeding through traffic with a Montalvo Scout on your bumper. and I stopped breathing. Claire, I stopped breathing until I saw you standing here. You hurt me, Claire whispered, tears finally spilling over. You made me feel like nothing. I was trying to save them. I was trying to save you, he rasped. He reached out, his hands cupping her face, his thumbs wiping away the tears with rough tenderness. But it is too late. They know you are my weakness, and if I leave you alone here, they will take you to break me. I am not a weakness, she said fiercely, grabbing his wrists. No, Marcus murmured, his gaze dropping to her mouth. You are not. You are the only thing that matters. The tension in the room shifted violently. The fear and the anger evaporated, replaced by a combustible need that sucked the air from their lungs. Marcus kissed her. It wasn't like the first time. It wasn't slow or gentle. It was a collision. He devoured her, his mouth hungry and possessive, claiming her with a ferocity that bordered on violence. Claire met him with equal force, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. Needing to feel the solid reality of him, he walked her backward, stumbling over the rug until she hit the wall. He pressed his body against hers, the heavy, hard weight of him pinning her in place. His hands were everywhere, in her hair, gripping her waist, sliding down to her hips to pull her flush against him. You don't run from me, he growled against her lips, biting the lower one gently, a punishment and a plea. Never again. Then don't push me away, Claire gasped, arching into his touch. Marcus buried his face in the curve of her neck. He inhaled her fragrance, the unique fragrance of her skin that had haunted his dreams for the last 3 nights. A primal instinct took over, an ancient drive to mark what belonged to him, to warn the world that she was taken. He kissed the sensitive skin beneath her ear, sucking hard. Claire cried out, a sound of shock and pleasure, her head falling back against the wall. He didn't stop. He bit down gently, soothing the spot with his tongue, leaving a dark, undeniable mark on her throat. Mine, he whispered against her skin, the vibration traveling through her bones. Claire didn't resist. She didn't want to resist. In a world that was spinning out of control, this mark felt like an anchor. It felt like a promise. Marcus pulled back, his eyes black and blown wide. He looked at the mark on her neck, then up at her flushed face. He took a ragged breath, visibly reining himself in. Pack a bag, he said, his voice rough but steady. You are not staying here tonight. You are not staying here ever again. Marcus, no arguments. You are coming to the penthouse. I am putting security on the door, in the lobby, in the elevator. You will sleep in my bed where I can see you, where I can reach you. Claire looked at him. She saw the fear beneath the command, the desperate need to keep her safe. She nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered. The penthouse was different this time. It didn't feel cold. It felt like a fortress. Marcus didn't leave her side. He watched her while she unpacked the few things she had brought. He watched her while she washed her face in the sprawling master bathroom. He was like a guard dog, vigilant and tense, waiting for a threat that wasn't there. Later that night, after the lights were out, the silence between them was heavy but comfortable. They lay in the massive bed, limbs tangled together. The physical desperation had burned itself out, leaving behind a quiet, aching intimacy. Claire traced the line of his shoulder with her fingertips. Her hand drifted down his back, over the smooth muscle until her fingers encountered something rough. She paused. There, running diagonally across his back from his right shoulder blade to his lower spine, was a lattice of scar tissue. It was thick, jagged, old. It looked like the aftermath of a whip, or perhaps fire. It was a map of pain etched into his skin. Marcus stiffened as her fingers brushed the ridges. He didn't move away, but his breathing stopped for a second. Marcus, Claire whispered, propping herself up on one elbow to look at him in the dim light. What is this? What happened? For a long time he didn't answer. He lay face down, his head resting on his arms, the muscles of his back bunched tight. I told you, he said finally, his voice muffled by the pillow. Betrayal has a cost. Who did this to you? Marcus turned over slowly, capturing her hand in his. He brought her knuckles to his lips, kissing them softly, his eyes sad and ancient in the darkness. It was a long time ago, he said quietly, before I was the boss. When I was just a soldier who believed in loyalty above all else. I trusted the wrong man. I thought we were brothers. I didn't see the knife coming until it was already carving me open. He placed her hand on his chest over his heart. The scars on my back healed, he said. But the trust that broke that day, Claire, it never grew back until you. Claire felt a lump form in her throat. She understood now. She understood the coldness, the walls, the hesitation. He wasn't empty. He was terrified. He was a man holding himself together with sheer will, waiting for the next knife. I am not him, she whispered fiercely. I will never hurt you. Marcus looked at her, his gaze searching her face. Reading the truth in her eyes, he pulled her down, tucking her head under his chin, wrapping his arms around her so tightly it was almost painful. I know. He breathed in her hair, and in the safety of his arms, surrounded by the steel and glass of his tower. Claire finally slept without dreaming of running, but Marcus remained awake, watching the door, his hand resting protectively on the curve of her hip, waiting for the war he knew was coming. The days inside the penthouse bled into one another. A seamless loop of luxury and confinement. For Claire, the penthouse was a gilded cage, beautiful but suffocating. She spent her mornings wandering the expansive rooms, her fingers trailing over cold marble surfaces and leather furniture that cost more than she would earn in a lifetime. It was on one of these aimless wanderings that she found the drawer. Marcus was in the shower. The sound of running water, a distant hum. Claire was in his study, a room she usually avoided, but boredom had made her bold. She wasn't snooping, she told herself. She was just looking for a pen to write a grocery list. A futile exercise given that Marcus's staff stocked the refrigerator before she could even ask. The desk was massive, a slab of dark mahogany. Most of the drawers were locked, their contents secured behind steel mechanisms, but the bottom drawer on the right side was slightly askew. The latch had not caught. Claire hesitated. The smart thing was to push it shut and walk away. Marcus valued his privacy above all else. He had made that clear. But curiosity was a powerful tide. She hooked her finger over the edge of the wood and pulled. The drawer slid open silently. Inside, there were no files, no weapons, no stacks of cash. There was only a single silver, framed photograph lying face up on the velvet lining. Claire reached in and lifted it. The picture was old, the colors slightly faded. It showed a woman with dark, laughing eyes and a smile that lit up her entire face. In her arms, she held a toddler, a little girl with curly hair and a ribbon in her dress. They were sitting on a picnic blanket, caught in a candid moment of pure, unadulterated joy. Claire stared at the image, her heart squeezing. She looked at the woman's face. She saw the ghost of Marcus in the little girl's eyes. This was not a mistress. This was family. This was a past he had never spoken of, a happiness that had been extinguished. She heard the water shut off in the bathroom down the hall. Panic flared. Claire quickly placed the photo back in the drawer exactly as she had found it. She slid the drawer shut until the latch clicked. She stepped back, her breath coming in short bursts. She didn't ask him about it. She couldn't. To ask would be to acknowledge that she had pried into the one part of his soul he kept buried. But the image stayed with her. It explained the shadows in his eyes. It explained the desperate, terrifying way he held her at night, as if he expected her to vanish if he let go. As the week wore on, the dynamic between them shifted. Marcus, usually a slave to his empire, began to neglect it. He missed meetings. He ignored calls from his captains. He spent hours just sitting with Claire on the balcony, watching the city lights, his hand resting heavy and possessive on her knee. He was pulling back from the world, his focus narrowing until it encompassed only her. It was a heady, intoxicating kind of love, but it came with a price. The bill came due on a rainy Tuesday evening. Silvio burst into the penthouse without knocking. He was dripping wet, his face pale and grim. Marcus was in the kitchen pouring wine for Claire. He set the bottle down slowly, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "What is it?" Marcus asked, his voice low. "It is," Silvio said, his voice tight. He didn't report for his shift at the warehouse. "We found his car abandoned by the docks." Marcus went still. Silvio pulled a small digital recorder from his pocket and placed it on the marble island. He pressed play. The voice that crackled to life was distorted, but the menace was clear. "You took something that didn't belong to you, Ashford. Now we have taken something of yours. Give us the girl or the body count rises. You have 24 hours. The recording clicked off. Silence descended on the kitchen, heavy and suffocating. Claire felt the blood drain from her face. She gripped the edge of the counter, her knuckles turning white. "This is my fault," she whispered. Her words tasted like ash. "They want me. They took Tom because of me." "No," Marcus said immediately. He turned to her, his eyes blazing. "This is the Montalvos being desperate. They are trying to squeeze me. They are going to kill him, Claire." "Marcus, you heard them. They want a trade. Give them me and your man goes free." "Absolutely not," Marcus snarled. He slammed his hand onto the counter. The sound made her jump. "We do not negotiate with terrorists. And I am certainly not handing you over to be butchered by animals. So you will let Tom die," Claire cried, stepping toward him. "He's one of your men. You value loyalty above everything. How can you sacrifice him for me? I would burn this entire city to the ground before I let them touch you," Marcus said. His voice was terrifyingly calm, a cold promise of violence. "Do not speak of this again. You are staying here. Silvio, double the guard downstairs. No one comes in. No one goes out." He turned and stormed out of the kitchen, heading for his study to plan a war. Claire stood there, paralyzed by guilt. She thought of the photo in the drawer. She thought of the woman and the child. Marcus had lost people before. If Tom died, if more of his men died because he was too focused on protecting her, it would destroy him. He would eventually resent her. The love would turn to poison. She knew what she had to do. 3 hours later, the penthouse was quiet. Marcus was still in his study, shouting orders into a phone. The guards were at the front door, but Claire knew the service schedule. She knew the housekeeping staff used the freight elevator in the back pantry. She knew the code because she had watched Marcus punch it in once when they ordered food. She wrote a note on a napkin. "I won't let you lose anyone else." She left it on his pillow. Moving like a ghost, she slipped into the pantry. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. She punched in the code. The heavy metal doors slid open. She stepped inside, hitting the button for the ground floor. The descent felt like falling. When the doors opened into the loading dock, the air was cold. It smelled of rain and exhaust. She pulled her coat tighter around herself and walked out into the night. She found a taxi 2 blocks away. "The docks," she told the driver, her voice hollow. "Warehouse District." The ride was a blur of neon lights and rain-streaked windows. When the taxi dropped her off at the edge of Montalvo territory, fear nearly paralyzed her. The warehouses loomed like sleeping beasts in the dark. She forced herself to walk forward, her hands raised in surrender. "I am here," she screamed into the darkness. "I am Claire, let him go." Shadows detached themselves from the building. 3 men. They didn't look like negotiators, they looked like executioners. "Well, look at that," one of them sneered. Stepping into the light, the boss's pet came to heel. "I am here," Claire said, her voice shaking but loud. "Let Tom go. That was the deal." The man laughed, dry, ugly. "There was no deal, sweetheart. We were always going to kill him. And now we have the leverage to make Ashford beg." Before she could turn, before she could run, a rough hand clamped over her mouth. She was dragged backward, kicking and screaming into the void as the darkness swallowed her whole. Marcus found the note 20 minutes later. He read the 6 words. For a moment, his heart simply stopped beating. The world tilted on its axis. The invincible armor he wore, the persona of the untouchable boss, shattered into dust. He didn't scream, didn't throw things, he went deadly, terrifyingly quiet. He walked into the living room where Sylvia was coordinating the search teams. Sylvia looked up, saw the look on Marcus's face, went pale. "Where is she?" Marcus asked. His voice was a whisper, but it carried the weight of a death sentence. "She's in the bedroom, boss," Sylvia said, confused. "The guards are at the door. No one passed them." "She's gone," Marcus said. He moved so fast Silvio didn't have time to flinch. Marcus grabbed him by the lapels and slammed him against the wall. A vase crashed to the floor, shattering. "You were supposed to watch her," Marcus roared, the rage finally erupting. "I trusted you with her life. She walked out the back while you were staring at the front door." "Marcus, stop," Silvio gasped, holding his hands up. "We will find her. We will get her back." Marcus released him, stepping back, his chest heaving. He ran a hand through his hair, gripping the strands tight enough to pull. A memory, sharp and agonizing, clawed its way to the surface. It was summer. The sun was blinding. He was younger, softer. His wife Elena was laughing, buckling his daughter Sophia into the car seat. "We will see you at the restaurant," Elena had said. She blew him a kiss. He had watched them drive away. He had felt safe. He had felt happy. Then came the noise, the earth-shaking boom that rattled the windows, the plume of black smoke rising into the blue sky. He ran down the driveway, his lungs burning, screaming their names, the twisted metal, the silence. They had been caught in a crossfire meant for him. He had buried his heart in 2 small coffins, and promised himself he would never feel anything again. Marcus blinked, the vision fading. He was not that young man anymore. He was not helpless. He was the monster in the dark that other monsters feared. "Get the car," Marcus said, his voice devoid of humanity. "Pure cold steel. Call everyone. Every soldier. Every favor. We are going to the docks." "Boss," Silvio warned, straightening his jacket. "If we hit the Montalvas on their home turf, it is war. The police, the feds, everyone will come down on us." Marcus turned to him. His eyes were black pits. "Let them come," Marcus said. "Tonight, I will kill everyone who stands between me and her." The Montalvo warehouse smelled of rust and old blood. Claire was tied to a chair in the center of the open floor. Her lip was split, a trickle of blood running down her chin. Her coat had been torn. She was shivering, not from cold, but from the aftershocks of the blow to her face. 3 men stood around her, smoking cigarettes, laughing. Tom was nowhere to be seen. "You think he is coming?" one of them asked, flicking ash onto the concrete. "He will come," another said. "And when he does, we will be ready." Then the lights in the warehouse flickered. They went out. Pitch blackness descended. The men shouted, fumbling for their flashlights. "What the hell? Check the breaker." A sound cut through the darkness. Wet, distinct, the sound of a knife finding its mark, followed by the heavy thud of a body hitting the floor. "Who is there?" one of the men screamed, panning his flashlight wildly. The beam caught a figure standing on the catwalk above. It was a shadow darker than the surrounding night. Marcus dropped. He landed with the grace of a predator, rolling to absorb the impact, coming up with a gun in his hand. He didn't speak, didn't monologue. He simply fired. 2 shots. 2 bodies dropped. The warehouse erupted into chaos. More men poured in from the side offices, weapons drawn. The air filled with the deafening roar of gunfire. Marcus moved like a wraith. He weaved through the crates, using the environment as a weapon. He was brutal and efficient. He shot a man in the knee, then knocked him unconscious with the butt of his pistol. He disarmed another, twisting the man's arm until it snapped, then threw him into a stack of pallets. It wasn't a fight, it was a massacre. Marcus was a hurricane of violence, fueled by a decade of grief and an hour of pure terror. He didn't stop moving, didn't stop firing until the hammer of his gun clicked on an empty chamber. Silence returned to the warehouse, heavier than before. Marcus dropped the empty magazine and reloaded. His hands steady, he walked into the center of the room. Stepping over the groaning bodies of his enemies, he holstered the weapon. He saw her. Claire was still tied to the chair, her eyes wide with shock. She was staring at him like he was a stranger, like he was a god of vengeance descended from the heavens. Marcus fell to his knees in front of her. The violence drained out of him instantly, replaced by a desperate, shaking fear. "Claire," he choked out. He pulled a knife from his boot and slashed the ropes binding her wrists and ankles. The moment she was free, she launched herself at him. She didn't pull away, didn't look at the carnage around them. She threw her arms around his neck and buried her face in his chest, sobbing. "I'm sorry," she cried, her voice muffled by his shirt. "I'm so sorry. I thought I could save them." Marcus wrapped his arms around her, crushing her against him. He buried his face in her hair, inhaling the scent of her, proving to himself that she was warm, that she was breathing, that she wasn't just a memory in a silver frame. "I have you," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I have you. You are alive." He rocked her back and forth, clinging to her with a raw, primal need. He kissed her hair, her temple, her bloodied lip. He held her as if he were trying to absorb her into his own skin, to keep her there forever where nothing could ever hurt her again. "Let's go home," he murmured against her ear. He picked her up, cradling her against his chest, carried her out of the darkness, leaving the ruins of his enemies behind him. The silence in the penthouse was different now, no longer the silence of a tomb or a fortress. It was the heavy, exhausted silence of a battlefield after the smoke cleared. Marcus sat on the edge of the massive bathtub, his white shirt discarded on the floor, stained with grime and the blood of men who would never threaten anyone again. Claire stood between his spread knees, a damp cloth in her hand. She was gentle as she wiped,